Hello friends, I'm Tammy K. Welcome to my channel. Today we're painting with a fan brush. Can you seriously? And usually it's used for landscapes, but we are going to be painting flowers with the fan brush. I haven't seen a lot of tutorials on YouTube painting flowers with a fan brush. I haven't seen any actually. So let's go ahead and experiment with this new brush. If you don't have one, it's linked in the description. Well, let's see what we can do with this little guy. So today we are really challenging ourselves by using our fan brush, and we'll see what we can come up with today. Just one brush to do all the marks. So I'm going to need a little help from my other brush friends, not to paint, but just to mix up colors because let's be honest, my brush can't fit into all these wells. And sometimes you can be fun and just dip it into several at once. But if I do need some specific color, I definitely need to dip it into these wells here. It's gonna give me better coverage for my brush and a better experience all around. So I'm gonna grab some blue. It's a lovely cobalt blue. And I've got that pinky purple color on my palette, mixing that up. I'm gonna want some yellow too. Let's add some water to that. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse the brush, go over here. We're gonna add in this lovely kind of orangey yellow that I've got going on. This tray's a little dirty, but that's okay. We'll just start adding in our color and adding in some water. And we'll start with those for now, okay? So we're not gonna paint with this brush, just doing some mixing so that this brush can do its work. Okay, we're gonna start by adding in some larger blooms here. And you can even dip in like this and get several different colors on your brush, which can be fun. This is a pretty thick paint mixture, and I want to do some larger blooms. So I'm just going to angle my brush, add some water to this, start to angle from the side, just kind of starting to make some cool marks, some feathery petals going out like this. So using the side of the brush for thin marks, and then this part kind of twisting and turning it to make the thicker marks as well, and just really have fun with it. This nice starburst kind of floral here, and then let's do another one just facing downward. So I can just kind of slow down probably, just making these kind of C-curve shapes to create the downward petals of the flowers. Maybe there's a few sticking out right here a little bit, but for the most part, sticking down like that. So we're not using the brush, traditionally how you might think it's used, but we are just going to have a lot of fun with what we can do. When I say traditionally, I mean, we're not getting like true, fan brush strokes, but you are able to see all the little white spaces that are left behind because of the way this is shaped. And there's a lot of spaces in between. So this one is going to have, more of that, front facing look. And I'm just twisting it to the side to get nice thin strokes. So we've got some larger major blooms. I'm gonna dip into this more saturated paint, and with a wet on wet technique, just add in a few lovely little pieces of color and over the top of that. Let's do that again over here, and then we'll see what we think about that when that dries. So it's always fun to grab a brush, to be creative, to try out different techniques, play around with your brush and see what it can do. It can definitely surprise you sometimes, how creative you can get just by, starting to experiment with all these things. Let's do some blue ones. I want to do kind of some side-facing florals here. So I'm just going to bring out some petals, a little bit of a different shape, pretty similar, but a little bit different. I don't know, is it different? And then we'll do one over here as well, a little bit smaller, and maybe it just kind of comes out like that. All right, we'll add our greenery later and really start to bring it together. So I'm curious if you're liking this video, please give it a like so that other people can find the video. and find out that, you know, we're having a good time over here. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before so that you don't miss out on my videos when I post in the future. It means a lot to me to have your support, and the fact that you're watching and sometimes even painting along with me is just so much fun for me to know. All right, so I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to start adding just some little kind of speckled flowers, and these could be anything that you can imagine. I want to add in some of that really nice bright color. So I'm just kind of stippling the side of the brush, making those marks, and we can add some over here too. Just a little bit. Be very loose about it. It's a very loose painting, it really is. So you can kind of, you know, do what you want with that, just moving the brush around. This is kind of, you know, a painting exercise in a way, you know, not so much, it's not so much about the composition as you're just utilizing this brush. And if it's new for you, you know, utilizing it in a way that you're starting to get to know the marks that it makes and feeling comfortable with something new. If you don't have a fan brush like this, you know, definitely I recommend picking one up. And I will link all the supplies at the bottom of this video in the description. So if you're wanting to check out all these products on Amazon, you can. I'm mixing up, and I'm just dipping in my 2 greens. You know, it's working okay. I'm going to mix this up. We're going to start adding in stems, and I'm going to use the side of this brush for this if I can. Kind of just make little sketchy marks for my stems and just going with it. So it would be very easy for me to stop what I'm doing, grab a nice round brush, and start making these marks with a round brush that makes sense. But I've committed to this. If you want to do that, it's totally fine. But the whole point of this is to not only get comfortable with a new brush, and this is a new brush for me, but to be able to challenge yourself as well as stick to something that is hard, that's challenging, because this is definitely challenging my patience. I want thin marks and I want them to do what I want them to do. And since I'm not as familiar with this brush, it's driving me a little wonky right now, but that's okay because I've committed to this and we're just gonna stick it out and see the end result of, you know, what we get in the end. And, you know, you might, as you're doing this, you might find that the end result is a lot more beautiful and satisfying than you imagined. So you're developing your muscle memory and learning all at the same time. I'm gonna count roughly. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stems. Look at that, I went odd numbers without knowing it. So I'm going to dip into the green. I've got some teal as well. And, you know, I'm not really going to keep track of how many stems, but roughly adding in some extras just so that, you know, we've got a nice little stem situation happening over here. Okay, so do you think, you know, this will be your favorite painting in the end? It may and it may not, but I want you to see this experience as that. It's an experience. We're gonna do some leaves to the side and just gonna pull out some nice leaf shapes. Look at that, we can do that. Looks like kind of really cool sketchy marks. And, you know, if you're going into a new technique, imagining that it's gonna turn out perfectly and you're gonna love every single thing that you create, kind of missing the point of all of it. I think the point is to be, at least for me, to be open to a new experience, to figure out how things work, and, you know, just to enjoy the process of that. And I'm telling myself that too, because sure, I've got expectations for what I'd like things to be, what I'd like to show you guys in the end. And at the end of this, just like most art, you know, all the other things that we create, things just kind of, you know, they evolve and turn out how they turn out sometimes. But the point is that we're learning, right? We're learning and we're observing, and the marks that we make help us to know if we like that for the future or what we can do differently. So I'm just going to grab some blue now, and I'm just using the fan. It's kind of working out. Oh, that's a lot of blue. It's gonna be a nice blue-green, kind of like that pine tree color. And I'm gonna darken up some of these guys. I'm using the side to get some thinner marks. And I'm loving that color. That's really pretty. Just a few little guys there. You can do the broad side of the brush if you want. Or if you don't want, that's okay as well. So as we're painting and I'm encouraging you as you're trying something new, I want to remind you just to relax your body because you're probably experiencing some tension here. If you're just watching, you probably aren't, but if you're painting with me, at some point you're gonna probably feel maybe some frustration peeking through, maybe some apprehension or some worry, and then our body starts to hold on to a lot of tension. So if that's you right now, I encourage you just to take a deep breath, a couple of deep breaths. If you're feeling overwhelmed, just walk away. And you can always come back to your painting later. But relaxing your body, reminding yourself what? This is supposed to be fun. This is relaxing. I'm learning something new. I'm growing in my craft. And when we remind ourselves of that narrative, it allows us to relax and to focus on just creating and having a good time. And working from our right brain versus our left brain where we're analyzing all the things and we're just kind of narrating everything and we're just having a bad time and looking for all the flaws. We don't want to do that today. We want to enjoy what is happening. Okay, so I'm letting these leaves just kind of hang out for now. I want to start adding in those shadow bits for our flowers. So I always mix up a darker color, darker shade of whatever I'm using. And so I'm just adding I added a little bit of purple into that reddish purple I had, and I'm going to add in some black, see if I can grab some. I want to darken this up because we're going to create some more marks here, and let's see how it goes. Look at that. The side of this brush is gorgeous. Oh, I'm loving that. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? So beautiful, beautiful little florals. Make sure you've got some of those line bits coming through because I think that really, it showcases what the brush can do like that, and really is pretty to have those marks. Kind of like an abstract painting in a way, right? And we're not really sure what's going to happen with it or how it's going to turn out, and that's okay. I'm going to make some thicker right here. I do not want to cover up the original color because I like that. I want to keep it that way, and I'm just going to do some little marks here. So I just want both of those to shine through. I'm just kind of wanting to put those marks down and then just take a step back and see, what do I think? Probably add in maybe some other colors also. Right there. So that's good for now. We'll let that dry and just do its thing. And then for the blue, we want to darken that up too. So I'm sticking with the colors. I'm not really going too crazy today. So you've got the nice thin marks, the lighter marks underneath, and then the lovely marks on the top. I'm just creating some contrast, some shadow, and some interest here. Now for me, these facing downward flowers, I always feel like they're harder for me to paint this from this angle, and sometimes I like to flip my paper, but because I have my paper completely, squared away for the camera, I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. So I'm pretty pleased about how this is turning out. I'll be honest with you, I was pretty nervous about what to expect, but I don't usually do, not that I would say this is abstract. This is definitely a different style than I'm used to painting, but I'm having a really fun time. So check in with yourself. I hope you're having fun. If you are finding yourself actually stressed, then take that deep breath, remind yourself it's supposed to be fun. Relax your shoulders. Your stomach tends to hold tension too, so that could be a good place to just kind of be aware and relax, and remind yourself you are getting better with every brush stroke. So I've got some nice brown on my brush, and this is where I'm going to stipple. Let's stipple from the side of the brush. I'm just gonna stipple some marks in here. Whether these are the centers of the yellow flowers or not, I don't really know. We're just going kind of abstract. Let's add some more in there. Some thicker ones and some thinner. Stippling is just making these little dots all over. And yeah, just going with that. And then I might come back in with some more yellow because there's a lot of white space and maybe more than I'd want. And maybe I won't. I do want to darken up my greens because I know they are drying pretty fast, which is lovely. All right, clean off that brush and then into the kind of cleanish water there. And I'm dipping into this orangey yellow. I'm just going to stipple around. I don't necessarily want to mix the brown around, so I'm just kind of dancing around. Just filling up that space with a little bit more color. There we go. So yeah, I'm kind of getting more bold now, just laying down that color a little bit more thick. And our last one up here. There's a lot of white space on my paper. You know what, I'm actually going to, oh, I like that. I'm actually going to kind of make the tops of these flowers have a lot of those brush strokes. And that's really pretty. Also, I was thinking it would be kind of fun to do just some of these marks on top of the leaves. You know, if you're going to paint with a brush so defined and so recognizable, you might as well put those brush strokes down, right? And make sure that it's obvious what you've used. I mean, why shy away from it? Which I'm not trying to shy away, but I'm just saying, might as well go bold. All right, I was putting my brush down like I'm changing it up. Well, I don't know, it's not happening. We're going back in with some more color, some more concentrated color, clearly. I'm going to start darkening up with this really concentrated green, darkening up these leaves, some parts of the leaves. And I love the sketchy look we're getting right now. Oh my, this is really fun. I hope you're having as much fun as I'm having. I love it. And I do want to add a little bit more green in between some of the elements. Oh, this is pretty. I love adding the light color and then finally adding in some nice dark marks over the top. And just kind of squishing that in together. Really concentrated, as you can see. I almost feel like I'm using acrylic or wash here. The way that I'm laying down the color just kind of reminds me of that. This does feel a bit abstract-y. And here's the big thing too, because I have to let go of control right now since this brush is a little insane. It's a little intense. Oh, I'm loving what's happening now. See, now I'm just kind of going for it. I start to get that confidence after that first level. Often, you know, that the first layer. With the first layer, I tend to be more cautious, even though that's the point where you really don't have to, because it's the underpainting and you're going to start painting on top. And then, you know, I just get a little nervous, like, how is this going to work out? Is this going to end up looking like I want it to? And you never quite know at the beginning stages, right? And that nervousness tends to kind of creep in sometimes, and that can just take away some of my creative juices, you know, I'll be honest. So it's never a great idea just to kind of start to give in to those worries and concerns, but it is real. It's a realistic thing. It happens. But then once we start to get the second or third layer on, if we have 3 layers, things start to come together and you start to build that confidence. And sometimes you surprise yourself. And then other times, you know, maybe your masterpiece didn't quite turn out as a masterpiece, and just being okay with that, because it's all practice. I'm telling myself this, guys, more than anybody here. I'm telling myself this because that's a message I need to remember. And it's hard, and I get it. A little bit of that teal. I'm loving that. Just some cool, dark, very saturated marks. All right, how's your painting doing? I'm so curious. Let me know in comments what you think about this. Remember to like the video, subscribe, all the things. And I feel like we're pretty close to being done. I do want to do a little bit more with these flowers. I don't want to go too dark, and yet at the same time, I want to look for some more contrast. So I'm going to try, let's see, what am I dipping into? Try this kind of reddish pink color It's really concentrated. I'm gonna dip into that and see if I can, you know, just add in a little bit more markings just to add a little bit more contrast, you know, to some of the spaces, especially this one. I feel like I could use a little bit more interest. And I think it needs a center. So there's that. All right, so right here, we're just gonna start here. And I did some thick marks. I'm just dipping into everything now. You know, at this point, it's like, well, whatever. Just adding it in. Yeah, that's kind of fun. And the center, what color do I want the center to be? I'm gonna make it brown. We're gonna go brown. Why not? All right, will brown show up? Hopefully. So I'm gonna go black. I'm gonna use a black center. I can change my mind. It's gonna be very concentrated, so hopefully it won't flow too much and move too much with the wet petals here. Because if you have a lot of water on your brush, your paint is going to flow everywhere. And if there is a lot of water, like if you're using watery paint, and if you have a lot of water already on your paper, your new paint is going to want to flow there. And that's just how it works. I love the center this is creating at the side of my brush. Look at that, guys. Can you see that? Of course you can see that. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Now I'm expanding it, making it super big. So I should probably just stop. I'm seeing here, I do want to add a little more green, that connecting part where the base of the flower connects to the stem. So again, what do I grab? Concentrated paint. This is starting to get pretty dark. So I probably want to stop while I'm ahead here. There we go. I like the marks that this makes on the side of the brush. It's really impressive. I'm enjoying that. Well, we are pretty much done with our painting, you guys. I have to do a little splatter. I don't think I've done splatter with a brush like this, so this will be fun. Absolutely. And, you know, why not? It's never too late to try new things. I'm looking at my painting. I think we're just gonna do the splatter and then be done with it. You gotta stop at some point. Let's just do some purple. So we have some really watery purple on our palette. And then we're just going to tap it, splatter, splatter, a little bit of splatter there. And that's it. Thank you for painting with me today. I hope you enjoyed using your fan brush. Again, it's linked in the description if you'd like to pick up your own. And I hope you consider the topic of relaxation when you're painting. Thinking about this is supposed to be fun, this is practice. It helps you to relax, it calms your anxiety, and it gives you a safe space to be able to take care of you. Talk to you guys later on the next video.